I'm Curt Dupriez, this is Chasing Cars, and this is the new second generation Skoda Kodiaq RS. Now the Kodiaq RS is a bit of a fan favourite here at Chasing Cars. Why? Because Monday to Friday it slogs around as a 7-seat family SUV. Meanwhile, it thinks it's a jumbo hot hatch for those Sunday morning punts. The first generation was so good at blending those seemingly contrary elements that we gave it 8.5 out of 10. And this new generation looks to be more enticing because it promises to lift its game in the 3 key areas where you want it to lift its game the most. And the form guide suggests that this new version is cheaper, larger, and quicker. But is it better? And does it blend its Jekyll and Hyde as convincingly as the old, more expensive, smaller and slower version? Let's find out, starting with that cheaper price. Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car.
Brought to you by
Budget Direct.
So the second gen Kodiaq RS arrives at $69,990 or around 77 grand drive away. Saving over the first generation, it's only $600, which isn't that much. Add this blazing velvet red paintwork, which is $770, and you've already breached the old version's price. But it is available in 6 other metallic or pearlescent colours at no cost. There aren't really a lot of options available, except for a panoramic glass roof, which this car has, for $1,900. But even without the roof, Skoda Australia claims that there's around 8 grand's worth of extra added value in this second generation version. Some of that stuff, like the Matrix LED headlights with swiveling fog lights, you can see from the outside. Other stuff like the extra 15 kilowatts of power and the dynamic chassis control plus suspension you might feel in the driving experience, but more on that later. Some of it is in added active safety, which you don't see and hopefully never have to use. And a lot of that is on the inside, and we'll get to that shortly. And of course, because this is an entirely new generation of Kodiaq, some of those new features are new, but others are simply updated to keep the vehicle up with the times. And some of those features include new look 20-inch alloy wheels, auto dimming for the heated and power folding wing mirrors, dual stainless steel exhaust tips, and a whole new RS look for the outside for a vehicle that was a mid-sizer, but now that it's 60mm longer, competes against the likes of Hyundai Santa Fe and Kia Sorento. Even if the Korean rivals don't really have a direct response for this particularly sporty cocktail. So larger and different on the outside, but we'll see what it's like on the inside. In the front row, the Kodiaq RS states plainly that it's ready for action, and a lot of that message is coming from these front seats. They're called a sport comfort design in a finish that is called RS Sport, and a lot of that is this sort of grey perforated leather and a lot of red stitching. They're fully electric on both sides, which is really nice, but they're not quite as nice as the rather excellent pews that you can get in the Skoda Enyaq, which is 10 grand more affordable. They are quite comfy and supportive, but some of the trim work is a little bit wavy in places. Nor are the ergonomics quite as driver focused as you would find in its stablemate, the Enyaq. The pedals are actually quite proud, and the steering wheel could do with a little bit more reach adjustment. But the leather trimmed flat bottom wheel is rather excellent, and for a large SUV, it's pretty sporty and driver focused. But these are very minor gripes because this Gen 2 Kodiaq is a big uplift over the first generation. It does feel roomy, and there's plenty of richness and variety in the design. The material choice too is pretty good. It's quite sporty, but not excessively so. This Gen 2 RS does add steering wheel heating and a head-up display, but there are also some pretty neat upgrades in the tech department. For a start, there's a new column-mounted transmission selector, which really leaves this center console area nice and clean. Open the center console up and you now get dual inductive phone charging that is ventilated so your phones don't cook under the 15-watt charging power. What I really like are these nifty full-color smart dials, which are primarily there for the updated 3-zone climate control. And with the center dial, you can toggle between fan speed, audio volume, and an adjustment for the drive modes. Above that is the new whiz-bang 13-inch touchscreen media system, which is a whopping 4 inches larger than what was found on the first gen. It's fast and easy to use, and some of the upgrades include DAB+ now finally, and a 13-speaker Canton stereo. And of course, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is par for the course. It does feature a lot of those expected little Skoda tweaks, such as the flock door bins and the handy little garbage cubbies. But there's also this unusual little device which sits in the center console, which is there to remove fingerprints from the touchscreen, as well as a nifty little dual cup holder that slides to create cubbies for 4 cups. And of course, no Skoda is complete without the umbrella in the edge of the driver's door. Right, front end's pretty clever. Let's see what it's like in row 2. Row 2 is reasonably comfy, and Gen 2 Kodiaq's extra length does pay dividends in knee room, though headroom is a little bit tight. Also not the widest cabin out there door to door, so fitting 3 adults in here is going to be a bit of a squeeze. This rear seat is good but not exactly rave-worthy, mostly because the belt mechanism here does jab you under the thigh. That said, the seat does get tilt and slide adjustment, so you can tune in rear comfort. This little cubby down here with cup holders does restrict foot room, but it is easily removable. I'm not a big fan of these device cradles, but you can easily pop them out. But when it comes to the more conventional creature comforts, such as the third zone climate control, the rear seat heating, the USB-C outlets, and even the rear blinds, it really is a complete package. Although a package that's not quite as comfy in the back here as the Santa Fe. So let's check out what it's like in row 3. Row 3 is really very tight. It's for small kids in here. It's not adult friendly. It's probably best served as a generous 5-seater. And I really don't think that Hyundai Santa Fe has got anything to worry about in terms of 7-seat adult comfort. Maybe things will improve a little when we get to the boot. You do get kick sensor electric tailgate activation, which opens to reveal 289 litres. And of course you get those Skoda doodads, including the metal luggage divider to stop stuff from flinging around the boot. Drop the second row using these handy little levers and you do liberate 794 litres. Converted to a 2-seater, it's a whopping 2,035 litres of space. And the important inclusion for any Aussie Grand Tourer is a spare wheel. So we checked out the cheaper and larger parts of the equation, but we want to know if it's actually quicker. So let's hit the road. When Kodiaq RS first launched years ago, it was a diesel. So 176 kilowatts, which isn't too bad, with a whopping 500 newton meters. And it would do 0 to 100 in 7 seconds flat. But when the facelift showed up in 2022, it migrated to turbo petrol power. In fact, it was the unit out of the much loved Octavia RS. It was 180 kilowatts, but a big drop to 370 newton meters. But the lighter petrol facelift could hit 100 k's an hour in 6.6 seconds. So here we are in facelift, the evergreen EA 888 engine now making 195 kilowatts and 400 newton meters. The time has dropped to 6.3. So while the Kodiaq RS has less power and torque than the current Hyundai Santa Fe 2.5 turbo, it's about a second and a half quicker to 100 kilometers an hour. How? Part of it is the crispness of the 7-speed dual clutch gearbox. And part of it is the all-wheel drive system, which fits an electromechanical multi-plate clutch system for what feels like finely tuned torque shuffling between the axles and the wheels. Signs of how serious this car is about being a driver's tool is also in the progressive steering and the adaptively damped suspension, which isn't offered in its Korean rivals. And that suspension is the dynamic chassis control plus system. And that's 2 valves, one for compression and a separate one for rebound. And all of that comes together fantastically well when you put it in sports mode, and the Kodiaq RS transforms into a jumbo hot hatch. As soon as you activate sports mode, the soundtrack gets bolder and all the responses to driver inputs get sharper. And in sport mode, the Kodiaq RS gets really towy. In fact, it's almost too towy for driving around town. But when you do give it the berries on the back road, it is keener between the apexes than what its big SUV appearance suggests. The body control is generally really taut too, and the suspension can be adjusted through 15 different steps from very soft to quite firm. It's still a fantastic handler even if you set it in a middling setting around the 7 mark. And some of that is because this DCC Plus system does dial out a lot of the dive and the body roll present in the old system, which means that this suspension is nicely compliant across mid-corner bumps where you get excellent wheel control, which really helps out in grip department. It's also lively and fun, and part of that is the precision of the front end, combined with the way that the all-wheel drive system puts a nice amount of torque to the rear under throttle. But back off into normal mode and the Kodiaq RS's character settles down impressively. It gets much quieter, the powertrain is less frenetic, and the ride is nice and soft, though you can really dial it up depending on your needs and your payload. On the downsides, if you really want to nitpick, the dual clutch design of the transmission really isn't quite as polished and as seamless as low speed as some torque converter designs. And one of the things I've noticed about this particular example is that some of the active safety systems are prone to some gremlins, and that some of the systems have decided to randomly shut off. Now that's probably not endemic of the Kodiaq RS, but probably a gremlin that's in this particular car that possibly needs just a hard reboot. Otherwise, the ADAS systems are unobtrusive, and the systems that have triggered have been warranted. And there's a long list of active safety features in the new Kodiaq. Some of them new, some of them have been upgraded over the old version. The Gen 2 has just been awarded 5 stars with ANCAP, and that rating will sit for another 5 years. Which brings us neatly to ownership, including insurance premiums. Budget Direct has told us the median annual premium paid between the 1st of October 2024 and the 1st of October 2025 to comprehensively insure a new Skoda Kodiaq was $1,192. Of course, everyone's situation is different and the premium will vary according to make and model and other things insurers take into account, such as your postcode, driving history, who drives the car, where you garage the car, and more. Servicing, well, it's $3,000 for a 5-year pack, which is $700 down on the first gen, and that's 12-month, 15,000 kilometre intervals. And warranty is 7 years of unlimited kilometre coverage. Skoda claims that the average fuel consumption is 8.1 litres per 100, and in our week with this car, it is bang on its claim. It does run on a minimum of premium 95 RON, but it will also run on cheapy E10. For many new car buyers, the notion of a 7-seat SUV that drives like a jumbo hot hatch is an answer to a question that nobody asked. But given that, historically, the Go Fast RS versions make up half of all Kodiaq sales, it's definitely an answer that plenty of owners want and like. Despite the seemingly conflicting aspirations, the Kodiaq RS nails the landing on both. It is a very good 3-row 7-seat SUV, perhaps not as roomy as some of its key rivals, but no less roomy than the regular bread and butter Kodiaq variants. It's easy to live with and easy to drive, even if you never feel compelled to drive it hard. Once you do uncork the RS, it is genuinely capable and genuinely fun. It's a proper driver's car, and certainly to a level that no other 7-seat attainable SUV can possibly match. And there's a certain lightness to the Kodiaq RS experience that can't be matched in the big dollar high performance rivals such as Audi's SQ7, which is quite a bit quicker, but also nudges almost 200 grand. Skoda's certainly enjoying a purple patch with new and updated models right now, and the Kodiaq RS certainly sits high on that heap. And it comes highly recommended as a shortlister if you are shopping for a 7-seater, even if you're after the performance or not. So that's what I think, but how about you? Put your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe while you're at it, and as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.